Hello, everyone. It's Will, and I'm here with another tarot reading. We are going to look at the week ahead, and so that's going to be the second full week of May 2025. I have chosen 3 decks that we're going to work with here today. First, I want to get some smoke on them. I'm going to burn some Palo Santo. And we're going to pull out the major arcana from the Ethereal Visions Tarot, the Luna edition. And we'll use those as our significator cards. That's these guys right here. And then we're going to lay out 7 cards for each reading. And we will use the Fyodor Pavlov tarot to do that. That's these guys here. Let me get a little more smoke going. And then I'll end each reading with a short focus message that I will get from the Noblet Marseille tarot. And that's these guys here. All right, so now that I've got smoke on these, let me set the Jean Noblet aside, and let's set the Fyodor Pavlov aside. We will come back to them. Let's take just the major arcana from the Ethereal Visions. That's these here. And I have shuffled these, but let me shuffle them here so that you can see. I'm going to lay out 3 of them. I'd like you to focus, center, take a deep breath, let it out. Think about your upcoming week and choose a card based on whatever you're drawn to, like what you're anticipating from this upcoming week, what you hope might happen. I think that's probably better than choosing what you fear could happen. All right, so, and maybe what I'll do, why don't I grab, let's take Feather, Key, Shell. So group 1 will be Feather, Key, Shell, and I will pull out a card to go with each of them. So Feather, Key, Shell. So group 1, the world. The world. If you feel like you're gonna get the world this upcoming week, this is group 1 for you. If you think that you might be getting ready to finish something, complete something, reach a resolution of something, then this is your pile. Like if you're finishing one thing so that you can start the next thing, this is your pile. Also, if you anticipate or hope to be elevated in some way, right? Like go up a level, ascend, then this would be your card. Number 2 with the key, we have the sun. Are you going to be outside this week? Are you going to bask in the warmth of the sun? Then this is your card. I also associate this card with friendship. Are you going to see some friends this week? Are you hoping to deepen a friendship or start a new friendship? Any of those would be appropriate if you choose this card. Warmth, happiness, feeling like you don't have to have any armor on. That's all the sun card. And the Hierophant. Are you going to learn something this week? Are you studying for something? Are you preparing for an exam? Is there some tradition that you plan to follow this week? Mother's Day is coming up. That could be part of it if you're in the States. Are you trying to follow conventions? Are you trying to gain wisdom? Or maybe you have tried to do that and decided you need to establish your own traditions, your own conventions, your own wisdom. That would be the card for you as well, the Hierophant. All right, so the timestamps will be below. Please choose the world and the feather, the sun and the key, or the Hierophant and the shell, and I will see you in your reading. Hello, Group 1, and welcome to your reading. This is for the upcoming week, the second full week of May 2025, and you chose the World card. Here she is, and the feather. I'll set that aside, and I'll just prop the World card right up here. I think you can probably still kind of see it. I can see it quite well. I am going to use the Fyodor Pavlov tarot, which I have shuffled quite thoroughly. Let me do a little more shuffling of it here, and then I'm going to lay out 7 cards, approximately 1 for each day of the upcoming week, although it doesn't always work out like that. You know, sometimes 2 or 3 cards might combine together to tell a little story that lasts over a day or several days. The idea here is to give you a general sense of like, what should you keep in mind? What should you have at the forefront as you are coming into this next week? Since you chose the World card, you know, it's the last major arcana. It's the end of the Fool's Journey, at least in traditional tarot decks. And so it makes me think that maybe you're completing something, maybe you're getting ready to start something new. You know, the world is a kind of beautiful, perfect completeness of vision, a resolution. Everything has come together, right? You like opposites are united, and all of the elements are joined up, and it's a great sense of fullness and completion. And so I anticipate that there's some of that that's coming through. You know, another interpretation of the card I will add, though, just to, you know, be as open as I can, is that sometimes the world can mean that things look really good on the outside, but inside there might still be something that's not quite right, okay? So there can be a sense of maybe feeling closed off a little bit, a little sense of separateness from others. Let's knock on these cards and cut them and lay them out. These cards are a little bigger than some of the other decks I've got, but we will make them fit. All right, so I've just got 7 here in a line, and we're going to start the week with 9 wands. So you might come off of the weekend and into the next week feeling pretty tired, feeling like you've been going, and you need a break, right? But the new week has started, and so this is the card that says you need to figure out what it is that you need to prioritize. Focus on that, because if you try to do everything, you're going to fall over. You just cannot do everything. So my first suggestion for you at the beginning of the next week is like, make a list of priorities. Maybe you figure out, here are all the things that absolutely have to get done this week. Here are the things I would like to get done this week. Here are some aspirations that if I have time, I could also do them this week. But then go back to that first list of things that have to happen this week and prioritize them, give them some sense of order, and work on those first, because you're taking on too much, okay? And so the only thing you can do is put some restrictions up around that. Give yourself some boundaries, and or ask for help. That would be the other option, right? Like, here this figure is alone and they're wounded. They've obviously been through it. They're missing a limb. they're having to use one of the wands just to keep them standing up. But maybe what they need is some assistance, right? So asking for help would be the other option. You can see the way that on this particular version of the card, the wands are sort of bursting out of the frame, as if to say, like, there's too much going on here. So that's the first thought I have for the beginning of the new week. And, to put that a little bit in conversation with the world card that you chose, like, are you trying to get the world, so to speak? And should you, instead of trying to get everything, to do everything, to accomplish everything, to be everything, could you prioritize and focus a little bit more? That's the first thought that comes to mind with these couple of cards. So next, after this Nine of Wands, we're coming up on the Page of Swords. So this is an aspect of your personality, either a way that you see yourself or a way that other people are seeing you. And so the Page of Swords is someone who is intellectual. They are learning, right? They're often a student. If they're not actually a student, they're somebody who is in the process of learning how to do something or be something or communicate something. All of those would go with the Page of Swords. There's someone who is either young or is in a position where they're untested, right? They're not an authority in a particular aspect of their life. And they might be kind of naive. They might be kind of hesitant to act or uncertain about when and how to act. The other thing I have learned about the Page of Swords in doing readings is, even though they're a page and not a knight, a queen, or a king, even though they're untested, even though they're hesitant, they are prepared, they are smart, and they often just succeed anyways, right? I think of the story of David and Goliath with this card often, where David is tasked with slaying the giant Goliath. And even though David is just a little regular person, they succeed, right? So this is a good card to see, I think, especially at the beginning of a week when maybe we're coming into it with a lot of stress or a lot of different tasks that need to be done, because that does suggest, like, so there's plenty of room for optimism here about your ability to tackle all these projects. More wands coming at us next with the Seven of Wands. So on the one hand, I think here of, again, stress. Things are coming at you from all sides, but you're at the top of the mountain, so to speak, right? Like, you do have the upper hand in things, even though it's like you've got to get this one and that one and this one and the next. Projects, tasks, errands, stressors keep being added to you, and you're beating them off with a stick. The good thing I like to see here is the movement from 9 to 7, right? We started with 9, now we've only got 7. So there is a movement downward. It's slow, but it would suggest that this Page of Swords is able to sort of bat away or cut away, or cut down all of these tasks that are coming at them. So at the beginning of the week, it's the kind of thing where you might, like, wake up on Monday morning and you might think, how am I ever going to get all of this stuff done? But you focus and you learn and you figure it out. And even though you're uncertain and hesitant, you do it anyways. And by, Wednesday-ish, you've gotten rid of some of those tasks, and you're actively working on getting through the others, right? So that is nice to see. I like to see that. That takes us to the middle of the week, and with the middle of the week, we have Judgment. So we could think here of actually judging or being judged. If you have something coming up this week, particularly around the middle, where you are needing to be critical of someone or someone is being critical of you, making assessments of you, all of that is a possible interpretation or reading of this card. But another couple of ways of thinking of it are waking up, awakening, right? Or even being reborn in some way, like feeling like you're a new person, you're a new self. And it can also have to do with groups of people, right? We've got this figure of judgment, but then one, two, at least four other, or five or six even, with all of the arms coming in from outside the frame of the card. So this is a card that can also represent rising up to do something, being called to do something with a group of people, right? So like this could be as simple as maybe in the middle of the week you go out for drinks with friends, right? Like someone calls up, or more likely today, like starts a text chain thread or something like that. And you rise up together, you're reborn together, right? After the troubles, the hassles, the stressors in the early part of the week, maybe in the middle part of the week, you're like, let's refresh ourselves, let's be reborn, let's rise up and start over again, start this week over again. And that brings us to 8 cups. 8 cups. So, to continue with this idea of going out for drinks after work, um, sometimes I think of the 8 of Cups as like the walk of shame card. There's all these cups scattered about. We've got this figure with their back to us who's like trying to move on from them, cross this little river. And so, just to continue with that little metaphor, like if you were going to go out for drinks with someone in the middle of the week, don't overdo it and have to do the walk of shame the next morning. That would be something to be warned of, to watch out for. But in a more metaphorical way, the 8 of Cups can just refer to any gathering of lots of people who are having a good time, right? Like maybe a party, could be a celebration of some kind. But something that's not going to last forever, right? That's where the moving on, the walking on comes with it. And I think it would likely occur in the evening and the nighttime because of when this card is set. We've got the moon out, we've got the darkness and the stars in the background. If we're thinking more deeply about this card, it can refer to emotional movement, right? So like if there's some baggage you've been hanging on to, or some emotional or relationship situation where you've been staying and now you feel like you need to move on towards the end of the week, maybe you're feeling like it's time to do that. That is a possibility with this card. Okay, and that brings us to 10 cups. We always love to see 10 cups. So there's a really clear movement from wands to cups this week, right? We're starting with lots of wands and slowly paring them down. Middle of the week, we get some reawakening with judgment, so that the second half of the week is more about cups. And we like to see cups instead of wands when possible, because cups fulfill us, they make us happy, they nourish us, they bring us what we need, and wands are a little more splintery and not, we can build things with them, but that's work, right? And so after the work you do at the first half of the week, you can expect some rest, relaxation, and happiness in the second half of the week. Like it will all pay off. And I would even say the payoff is even a little greater than the effort you're putting in. I'm giving that we're seeing a 9 and a 7 for the wands, and then an 8 and a 10 later on for the cups. Something else to consider with the 10 of Cups is it's like a perfect family, which is lovely and wonderful and it's great, but it's not always the whole truth. A perfect family that has no conflicts doesn't actually exist, I don't think. And so I do think this is a temporary card when it comes up, this 10 of Cups. Like, this is the happily ever after card, right? But we always wonder, well, what happens the next day, So enjoy it, absolutely enjoy it while it's here, but it's not final. And I suppose that's true of all the cards. None of the cards are final. We've got the Knight of Coins to end off our string of 7 cards for the week, the Knight of Coins. And that's the second court card that we've seen in the string. And the first, of course, was the Page of Swords. And so I would think here that this is another phase or aspect of your personality. And so on the one hand, I would point out the movement from page to knight, which suggests a certain sense of growth, movement, advancement, right? You're not just a page anymore. You've been sort of promoted up to knight status by the end of the week. So if you were feeling hesitant, naive, untested, unsure of yourself, you're going to be much more energetic and ready for action, ready for progress, ready for movement, ready for a journey by the end of the week, which makes me think going into the next week, you might be a little more like prepared. Uh, the other thing, of course, with the Knight of Coins is it's about practical matters. So maybe you're getting some errands done over the weekend. Maybe you are taking care of stuff around the house that you had previously needed to neglect because of work, or because you were having a really good time, with all of these cups in the second half of the week. The Knight of Coins is very slow. So I would say, like, take it easy. If there is stuff that you need to get done at the end of the week and sort of catch up on, tie up loose ends, that's great. But take it easy. Slow and steady wins the race. Don't feel like you have to go through. We're not looking at the Knight of Wands, the Knight of Swords here, right? You can take it easy. Um, maybe with the Knight of Coins, maybe even be a little lazy on the weekend, honestly. He's the slowest of the knights. And so if you need to take action, fine. But, maybe take some laziness for yourself too. I think that that can sometimes be a really healthy thing to do. So that's your spread for the week. Let's take the Jean Noblet Marseille Tarot, which I have shuffled, and let's just lay out a string of 3 cards here. And this is your focus message. This is what you should be focusing on going into the week, what you should be thinking about going into the week. And we'll try to make it just a pithy little statement for focus and motivation. Like, what could help motivate you to have the best possible week for yourself, okay? All right. We'll just lay out 3 little cards here for a focus message for this upcoming week. And we're starting with 8 swords. All right, so maybe some defensiveness, something about defensiveness, something about feeling stuck in your mind, stuck in your thoughts. What do we have next? The Emperor. Okay, discipline, control, taking care of business, being commanding, taking action, and 9 coins here. Good results, luxury, motivation. So, what's your focus message? If you can stay disciplined, especially over your thoughts, over your mind, you will be motivated and have excellent results this week. So the key for you this week, stay disciplined, right? Have a plan, be in control, right? Be steady, be structured. That is what you should focus on, particularly regarding your thoughts, right? Oh, and I'm seeing, my bad. I thought this is the 8 of swords. It's the 9. So less about defensive and stuck and more about anxiety. Be disciplined over your anxiety and also make sure you're sleeping. Make sure you are sleeping. If you can do that, be disciplined about sleep, your 9 swords will turn into 9 coins and you'll get good results, okay? And you'll be more grounded and independent by the time the week is through. Okay, I will end it there. I hope you enjoyed this reading. Please consider liking and subscribing and let me know down in the comments below what resonated with you here. And I hope that you get the world this week. I will see you next time in your next reading. Bye-bye, everyone. Hello, Group 2, and welcome to your reading. You chose the Sun card paired with the key. I'll just set that key aside so that we have plenty of room here. I'll set it up here at the top of the table. The Sun card makes me think of light and warmth, finding a new way forward, friendship, feeling accepted, like you can be vulnerable in front of people. You don't need any armor on or even clothing. You can just like let it all hang out and be happy and warm. These are the things I think of. So let me just put the sun up here so that I can see it and it's a little bit out of the way. I've got the Fyodor Pavlov tarot ready for us. I'm going to shuffle it some more, and we're going to lay out 7 cards, approximately 1 for each day of the week. We'll read those in a line and think about what's coming up for you this week. What should you be focusing on? What should you be prepared for? What should be at the forefront? And then once we've done that, we'll lay out 3 cards from the Noblet Marseille tarot and give you a focus message, something that you should be concentrating on as you go into this next week. All right, let's just get a little more of a shuffle on these. And then I will knock on the cards and cut them. There, okay. 7 of them down, 7 cards fall on the table. What's coming up this next week? Okay. So this week we're starting off with temperance. Balance, synthesis, getting impossible things done, having some fire about you, maybe working on doing some healing, or even fixing some things from the past. If anything from the previous week was left uncompleted or messed up or something, this is all about repairing that, fixing that. Starting with temperance and leading into 10 swords. Okay, well, the first thing I think of is if you have back problems, that may be something that's going to come up for you early in the week. All right, so maybe anticipate that and watch out for it early on so that you can handle it as best as possible. Of course, that card is not only about back problems. So it's about a completion. It's about a resolution. It's frankly, it's not a great card to see, right? You know that if you know anything about tarot, we probably don't like to see the 10 of Swords, but because it can mean defeat, it can mean an ending, and probably not ending in your favor, right? There are other ways of interpreting it, though, and so it can just refer to overthinking. Swords are the mind, right? And 10 is the most you can have. So it's possible you're just really overthinking something and it doesn't refer to an actual defeat or a failure of some kind. On the one hand, it's really great when we can see things from multiple perspectives, isn't it? Right? When we can see things from our perspective, from a friend's perspective, from someone's perspective who actually we really disagree with. We think they're wrong, but we can see their perspective and understand why they think the way that they think. That is a really good skill to have. And I think we need more of that in the world in general. But also, at a certain point, you have to say, even though I can see things from all these different perspectives, I think this because, and I have a reason, I have supporting points, right? Like I can tell you, I can make an argument for my case and why I think things should be this way instead of that way or that way or that way or that way, right? And so this card can also just indicate that you're seeing things from all the different perspectives. But because of that, you are unable to do anything about anything, right? And so you're frozen, right? It's not necessarily a defeat or failure so much as your mind has totally frozen you and it just doesn't have any room for more perspectives and ideas. And so something's got to give, right? Eventually, these swords are going to fall out, right? Eventually, the healing comes next because we can't have any more swords, right? Not in one card, anyways. I hope I didn't jinx it. Let's flip the next one. Okay, the lovers. Oh, we love to see the lovers. Great. So this could be something to do with a relationship. If you are in a relationship or starting a relationship, any of that could be coming up. Maybe there's some kind of argument with a partner. That is possible. The other way the lovers can come into a reading is just saying there's a choice that needs to be made, right? You're going to go one way or you're going to go another way. You may have a big choice to be making. around the early mid part of the week that could be coming up. Let's see what we get next. Ace of Coins. So there could be money coming in, right? Ace of Coins can just indicate a fairly large or even just modest sum of money coming in. But it's not necessarily money. It's just, it can be any resource, time, energy, a feeling of well-being, right? Anything that you would value, anything that you could use, exchange, could be represented here by the Ace of Coins. It can also indicate just like trying on a new behavior, right? Is there something you have been trying to get into your routine, into the structure of your day? The right at the midpoint of the week here, this card could indicate that would be a good time to try it. This card is all about potential. Coins are about routine and materiality and the body. And so, like, if you've been thinking maybe, I don't know, like I should start making salads at home every night for lunch the next day, right? Um, Maybe in the middle of the week, you give that a try. You give that new behavior a try to nourish your body and your wallet as well, if you're like doing that instead of eating out. So the middle of the week for you coming up is going to be a really good time to engage in, take advantage of new potential, right? Particularly related to the material world here in the middle of the week. Which brings us to the Hanged Man or the Hanged One. So this can refer to making a sacrifice, needing to renounce something, give up something. If there is something that you've been thinking of giving up or holding back on, that is maybe coming your way. It can also refer to a punishment, right? See, this person they're being hung upside down, potentially as a punishment. They've been wounded. You see the arrows in their body. So it's whether it's a just or fair punishment or not, I couldn't say without talking to you. And of course, probably each of you would have a different explanation of that. But that is a possibility. More likely, though, I don't think people get punished very often. And so I think it's more likely like sacrifice, having to give something up. And of course, the most positive reading, and the one that I always like to give with this card, is it's about seeing things from a different perspective. Because the Hanged One is upside down, they see things in a way that other people can't, right? This card often comes up with people who are figuring out something about themselves, and they are ready to be totally shameless about it. Like if a queer person has just come out, for example, this card might come up to say, you are ready to go out into the world, be shamelessly who you are. If people want to punish you, you don't care because you see what they are unable to see, right? And you're renouncing, you're giving up your shame. That would be one possible reading here of the Hanged Man, or the Hanged One, as I often like to term it. Which brings us to the King of Wands. I like that transition from the Hanged Man to the King of Wands, from the one who is making sacrifices, maybe feels punished, who sees things in ways that nobody else can, being sort of promoted up to being a King of Wands, a leader, someone who can make demands on others when necessary, who can command others, tell other people what it is that they need to do. I love to see that with the King of Wands. The King of Wands is also somebody who, while they greatly enjoy sensation and excitement and being stimulated and having fun, they have that under control, right? So this is someone who's able to have fun, be excited, be stimulated, but in an appropriate, controlled, disciplined kind of way, right? And so maybe you've got some disciplined fun coming up for you as the weekend approaches, especially if you're ending off the week feeling like the hanged one. Hang in there because I think there's probably, some good stuff coming for you. And it's true. The Two of Cups is what we're going to end the string for the week with. And so I love to see that after the Lovers. To see these two cards together in the same spread is great, right? So we've got the Lovers back here, and maybe there was a fight or an argument, a discussion of some kind with all of these swords, and maybe someone did feel wounded by it. I think by the end of the week, you're going to make up, right? And you're sort of starting anew. You've got your two cups, you're toasting. There's potential there, there's planning for the future. Those two cups are about a relationship that's really meaningful. And so I love to see that, especially after this pairing of 10 swords and the Lovers earlier on. Okay, so those are 7 cards to describe the upcoming week. Let's take the Jean Noblet Marseille Tarot now, and let's lay out a string just of 3 cards, and we will aim to answer the question, what should you focus on going into the week, right? Like, these first 7 cards I laid out are meant to describe the week, and these 3 cards I'm going to lay out now are meant to give you kind of an action plan, a starting point for how you should approach this upcoming week. So let's see what we get. And I'll just lay out 3. We're looking for a pithy little statement about how to approach the upcoming week. We're not predicting here. We're just thinking of a motivational statement. Hey, we've got our Ace of Coins popping back in again. So it's clearly saying take advantage in the middle of the week here. Be really prepared to take advantage of the potential to take on a new behavior or like invest a sum of money in a smart way. We've got the Queen of Wands, the Queen of Batons, which connects here, I think, maybe with the King of Wands. This could refer to a couple, regardless of gender, right? Regardless of gender, I think the King and Queens often go together. And so maybe it's like focus on your partner, or your, like, maybe it's just a good friend. It could also be a family member, because they come from the same suit, right? So maybe there's another person to focus on. And these 2 people, they like to have a good time. They like to have fun. They're social. They're passionate, right? And so nurture that, focus on that. And justice. Okay, we know that justice is about making the right decision, taking your time to make the right decision. Here, I can't help but think of going back to the 10 of Swords and the Lovers. Like, if you've got these 10 swords, these 10 perspectives, and you're trying to figure out which is the right one, justice is saying choose one that is the balanced and the fair decision, and you will know what it is, right? You don't have to always and forever consider every perspective. Think about them for a moment, but it's okay to reject something that you decide is wrong, right? That is what I'd say. Okay, let's see if I can tie this up into a pithy statement. Ace of Coins, Queen of Batons, justice. So, you should take advantage of a new potential, like a new material potential, a new behavior, a new action, investing money, a new value, whatever it might be for you in your individual case. And you should do that. Why? Because it's the right thing to do, right? The way I would read these cards is, this is a person, court card, this is you, right? This is what you're doing. you're taking that coin and you're going to use it in the right way, right? You're going to invest it to sort of grow your garden or whatever it might be. And why are you doing it? That's justice. That's the because it's the right thing to do. Okay. Be just, right? Use your material resources the right way because it's the right thing to do. And so that when the end of the week comes, you'll be able to look back and say, yes, I did that. And I made the right decision and it was the right thing to do. And I can be proud of that. Okay, I will stop the reading there. Please consider liking and subscribing and let me know in the comments which of these cards stood out to you, which resonated with you. I'd love to hear it. And I hope that you get to enjoy the sun in this upcoming week, that you get warmth and happiness, and that you get to glow all week long. I will see you in your next reading, everyone. Bye-bye. Hello, Group 3, and welcome to your reading. You chose the Hierophant card from the Ethereal Visions Tarot Luna Edition, and of course paired with the shell. I will just set that shell aside so that we have plenty of space here on the table for the cards. And I'm going to lay out 7 cards, and we will get an answer to the question of what's coming up for you in the next week. I'm using the Fyodor Pavlov Tarot. And because you chose the Hierophant, I'm thinking you are learning, you are seeking counsel, you are seeking advice of some kind. Maybe you are working on developing or deepening or improving your own sense of beliefs, like your own belief system, or exploring a new tradition of beliefs. That would make sense to hear. If you're a spiritual kind of person, then maybe this upcoming week is you're anticipating or hoping to do some kind of spiritual work, spiritual development. That would all be appropriate for the Hierophant card that you've chosen here. So let's shuffle these just a little more, and then I will knock on them and then cut them and lay them out. We'll do 7 cards, approximately 1 for each day. They don't always line up day by day by day, but okay, there's 7 cards that we've got. Let's flip over the first one and see what are we starting with this upcoming week. Page of Coins. Page of Coins is the first card. So starting the week like a page came up in another reading today. It probably means there's a sense of like, you're a little uncertain of yourself. You feel untested. You're not really like sure if you're doing this right or if you can get everything done. But I think with the Page of Coins, there is a great sense of enthusiasm. The page likes what they're doing, right? They are excited about it. There is goodness in it. There is value in what they are doing. But they're sort of at the stage where they're planting the seeds, right? And they don't know for certain if they're going to grow. They don't know for sure if they're planting them the right way. Are they putting the right seeds in the right kind of soil? Is there a certain kind of fertilizer? How much water do they need? It's all of that kind of uncertainty that comes along at the beginning of the week. So you might be feeling like, am I doing this the right way? I hope that I am, but also having a really great sense of enthusiasm for whatever it is that you are doing. Okay, that leads us to the Knight of Cups. So I think of coins as more practical. This might have to do with like a job or things you're doing around the workplace or the house, right? Or just taking care of yourself, right? Plans you're making, results you're trying to get. And then here we've got the Knight of Cups, and this is more about relationships, emotions, feelings, the personal work that we do. So if you're a page in your practical life, maybe you're a knight in your relationship life, right? Like maybe you're feeling uncertain in the realm of your job, right? Or practical stuff. But maybe you're feeling like you're making some really good progress in a relationship or in your emotional growth or something like that, right? Another way, of course, that we could read these, let me just push these over, would be as these are two people who are facing one another. And especially with the Knight of Cups, I think like the Knight of Cups is really the romantic figure of the deck. They're like the knight in shining armor of the deck. And so maybe there's a relationship between these two people. If these aren't just aspects of two different aspects of your personality, maybe you are engaged in a relationship of some kind with someone, or at the beginning of the week, maybe that's starting up. If you're not in a relationship already, that is another possible way of thinking about it. So, if we are talking about two different figures here, these figures seem to be really well suited to one another. And the reason for that is pages are about the element of earth, and so are coins. So this person is very grounded, they're down to earth, right? And they're focused on materiality much of the time and on the details of a situation. They're also someone who's a feeler, right? As opposed to more of a thinker. And so is the Knight of Cups, right? The Knight of Cups is intuitive, they're a feeler, they're the kind of person, both of them are the kind of person who doesn't necessarily have to have everything planned out in advance, but who is able to sort of take life as it comes at them. And so that aspect of their personalities is going to sync up, I think, really well, right? They don't have to both know in advance, like, who's going to be there? Where are we going? How much are we spending? Have we looked at the menu, right? They can just sort of be like, let's see what happens. Let's make decisions as we come to them. And we've got another knight here. So court, court, court. It's all about court cards at the beginning of the week. So this could be a third person, right? Maybe we've got a group of friends. We've got a group of people at work. There could be just a lot of people involved in the beginning. But another way of saying this would be the knights can represent a journey, right? They've got the horses. The horses take you somewhere. It's about travel, it's about movement, actual, literal, or metaphorical journey, right? So maybe this is about you going on an emotional journey that turns into a passionate journey from water to fire. Maybe it's both of those things combined into one. This could also just indicate if it's not that there's lots of different people involved in the beginning of the week, maybe you're showing many different facets of your own self this week, right? Maybe at the very beginning of the week, you're feeling a little hesitant about if you're going to get stuff done. And then you're feeling really like a lot of emotional growth and movement, and maybe a relationship is starting to take root. And then maybe by later on in the week, you're feeling really excited and passionate and stimulated, like you're on a passionate journey about something. We could also think of this as an acceleration of speed, because pentacles are slow, slow, slow. They're the slowest suit. Cups are a little faster, and wands are the fastest suit, right? So maybe the week starts out very slow with lots of inertia, kind of stodgy, and then things start to move faster. And then by the middle of the week, things are really, really going, going, going for you. And back to pentacles. We've got 8 of them for you right in the center of the week. And so this makes me think of uniformity, right? Like you're doing a repetitive action over and over and over and over again, but you're very, very good at it. This is about skilled labor. This is about professional development, professional labor, right? Not only do you do this one thing over here at the beginning of the week, but you do it over and over, and you do it really well. People are like, wow, how do you make them all look the same? That's amazing. I can't believe a person can do that. That's what I would see. So a great sense of development and movement. We could also think here of an increase of money or any kind of resource, right? The page has just one coin, but they're planting all of these seeds at the beginning of the week. Well, by the middle of the week, we've got 8 coins, right? So those seeds have borne results. Whatever you're doing at the beginning of the week is going to pay off when you get here later on towards the middle point of the week, whether it's having more time, more energy, more money, getting better results, whatever it could be. So stay motivated, continue on that journey, right? Ace of Cups comes up as we start to close the week. So this, of course, is all about potential, openness, a new relationship, a new feeling, a deepening of feeling, being nourished, being fulfilled, being happy. Cups are about happiness, I think, at the end of the day. So it could also mean rain, right? If you're somewhere, it can also just indicate rain or like a body of water in some sense. So maybe you are celebrating all the work that you've done this week towards the end of the week. Maybe it's the kind of thing where you meet someone and you have a deepening of a relationship. You know, we talked earlier about the Knight of Cups being a very romantic, the most romantic figure in the tarot deck. And so maybe there's a connection with Knight of Cups to Ace of Cups, like a potentiality, a beginning, a unity, a start, a new start there with them. Whoa, but it's not just cups, it's wands. So look at this. Look at this. We have a perfect repetition of coins, cups, wands, right? And so look at that. From 1 coin to 8, from a Knight of Cups to an ace, from a Knight of Wands to an ace. So this is beautiful, and I'm just thinking of all the different ways that we could read this. But I think the one that comes most strongly is the idea with the knights turning into aces. It's like you can have a new start with these people, right? If assuming that these are representing people other than yourself, let's start with that for a moment. The Knight of Cups and the Knight of Wands. I suppose one of them could be you, right? Like maybe you were the Page of Coins and then you become the Knight of Wands and the other person is the Knight of Cups, or it could be a different combination than that. But, and it'll be different probably for each one of you. But the idea here is a new start, right? Someone you're meeting in the beginning of the week, right? Someone you're getting together with in some way. That later in the week, there's a sense of fulfillment, a new spark that pops up, right? And emotional on the one hand or passionate on the other, right? So like this could be a choice between a couple of different partners, or it could just be one person who one day is feeling more romantic and emotional and the next day is feeling more like passionate and fiery, right? That's a possibility there. And we're ending with the sun. That's great. I love to see that with the sun. The sun is about being your own true self out in the world, out in public, letting the sun shine down on you. You don't have to feel like defensive. You don't feel like you need to protect yourself because you are safe. You've got everything you need. You can let it all loose and be warm and happy. So these are really cool cards. I love to see these. I just want to come back to the Hierophant for a second because I don't think that I've really brought that card too much into the reading today. And so what I'd like to do is connect it back to the coins cards that we've seen here. And so I think that these results, what these coins, these values that these coins are representing could have to do with, like, for example, if you're a student and you're learning something, the page is saying you might be uncertain, but you're putting in the work and it's going to pay off, right? And that would connect to the Hierophant in terms of learning, advancing on your way towards understanding a particular kind of tradition or series of conventions or whatever it might be, right, that you're working on. It could also be with the cups here, spiritual growth, right? Or a potential for a new deepening of spirituality, especially with the Ace of Cups there. Okay, so let's now see if we can use the Jean Noblet Tarot to suss out a pithy little motivational statement, something for you to focus on coming into this week, my Hierophant people. And so for this, we'll just shuffle and pull 3 cards, and using those 3 cards, we will generate a focus statement, something for you to be focusing on as you go into this new week. Okay, what do we have? We're starting with 5 swords. So I like to think of this as a breakthrough, right? The sword in the middle breaks through the swords at the side, right? Like a mental breakthrough, something you've been trying to understand. And maybe it just you haven't been able to learn it or assimilate it, but you have a breakthrough. Ooh, 3, 6, 9 cups. This is all about pleasure, satisfaction, fulfillment. And the moon. So the moon can be mystery, uncertainty, fear. It can also mean a hidden world or like another world, seeing the world in a totally different way. It can also mean confusion or distraction. So let me connect these to the Hierophant card that you chose. And let me just think. Oh, got it. Okay. So, focus on sharpening your mind to have a breakthrough that will be totally satisfying and fulfilling and that will clear away your confusion. Okay. So, the trick here, I think, for you, and I'm noticing what you will need is some balance, right? Because if we look at the cards that came up in the first 7 that I laid out, right, we didn't get any swords. So we had every other element represented twice, right? But there was no thinking happening. And so this now is saying also use the sharpness of your mind to break through. That will get you the satisfaction, fulfillment, happiness that you need to clear away any confusion. So during this week coming up, if you're feeling confused, if you're feeling any fear, right? Think, use your mind, and that will give you the breakthrough you need to coordinate things, to line things up, organize them, and you'll reach this satisfying sun moment for on the weekend. Maybe you'll get to go away, go outside on the weekend and enjoy the sun. All right, I'll end the reading there. Please consider liking and subscribing, and let me know in the comments down below what resonated for you in today's reading. I'd love to hear it. Thank you so much. Have a great week, and I will see you next time.